Hi friends, welcome to Healing Place Cottage. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm so happy to have you with me today. Today we're going to make a recipe from the book Diabetes Meals by the Plate. And what I love about this book was published in 2014. What I love about it is that it actually gives you recipes for an entire meal. It gives you all of the nutritional information and everything that you would need for an entire plate, hence the name of the book. So today we are going to make a recipe called chicken Relleno, and I looked that word up and it means stuffed. So you've probably heard of chile Relleno, and that is just means stuffed peppers. So we're going to start out by finely chopping a fresh poblano pepper. So for those of you who are new to my channel, I make diabetic friendly recipes, low carb recipes, and I'm not a dietitian, I am not a doctor, I'm someone who lives with type 2 diabetes, and my doctor recommended that it was time that I make some lifestyle changes, and I agreed. So when I searched YouTube, and I did a search again last night and this morning because I thought maybe I'm not giving it enough of a chance, but when I searched YouTube, I found lots of dietitians offering diabetic recipes, but I didn't find people like me who are living with type 2 diabetes and trying to make modifications to their lifestyle to become healthier versions of ourselves. And so that's what encouraged me to start to make content. So we need to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. And in a saucepan, we are to cook the poblano peppers, onion, and celery. So I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in my saucepan and cut up my celery. So this morning I took my blood sugar and it was only 73. And I will tell you that just 6 weeks ago it was 350. I was eating whatever I wanted, which included a whole lot of sweets. My cholesterol was off the charts. And like I said, my blood sugar I was reading 350. That was fasting. That was a fasting blood sugar. So when I decided to make the lifestyle changes, in just 6 weeks, I went from an A1C of 13.9 to an A1C of 8. And that just happened. So I just went to the doctor last week. So we're going to go ahead and chop up our onion. I've chopped up our celery. I will tell you too that I am going to modify this amount that I'm making in this recipe because I'm not cooking. It makes 4 servings and I'm not cooking for 4 people. And I'm big on not having having as little food waste as possible. And I am certain that there are people who have far better knife skills than I do that are cringing at the sight of my use of a knife and just hoping that I don't cut myself. So I apologize in advance that you have to watch this. I'm also a very messy cook, but I tend to be a quick cook. And so one of the things that's been difficult for me in changing my habits to eat healthier foods is that I am impatient. So on a work night, even though I love to cook, I want it to be fast. So for this stuffed chicken, they actually have a recommendation that you take 2 egg whites. Once you've stuffed the chicken, you dip the chicken in the egg white, and then you dip the chicken in your cornmeal. And to me, that's a step that on a weeknight I'm probably not going to do. So I hadn't decided beforehand if I was going to do that step, but as I'm talking through it, I do want to do what I would do on a weeknight. So rather than do the egg whites, I probably will just sprinkle it with that cornmeal. We mix that cornmeal with some Cajun seasoning. And so I probably will just sprinkle that on rather than roll it in that. And then you top that with Monterey Jack cheese, and that's an easy step. So we'll continue with that. Are you someone that likes to cook big meals on the weeknights? I love to cook, but I love to cook for company. I love to cook for group activities. So we are cooking these until tender. We're going to stir in some parsley. It does call for fresh parsley, but I'm also not someone who's going to go out of my way to buy everything on the ingredients list. And I actually forgot fresh parsley when I made my grocery list. I do all of my shopping, ordering my groceries online. And if you don't order your groceries online, let me tell you, it's the best thing that I've done for myself as far as time saving goes. It's so much easier, and I actually save money because I'm not impulse buying when I'm in the store. So I added dried parsley. I had that in my spice rack, so that's what I added. These do look like they're about tender. So we want to go ahead and stir in the parsley, which we did, and add 1/8 teaspoon of Cajun seasoning. And I'm not sure, but I think Old Bay would work. I think that's the same thing. I'm going to go with that's 1/8 teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. I know every YouTuber says it that cooks, but if smell-o-vision was a thing, you would love the smell of this right now with the peppers and onions and celery and that Cajun seasoning. So the next step is to place our chicken breast halves between 2 pieces of plastic wrap. Again, this is a step that I'm probably not going to do on a weeknight. So I am going to get my chicken. So this says to take your chicken breast, put it between 2 pieces of plastic wrap, and pound it with a mallet. So the goal is to make it thinner. Realizing that that's not something that I'm going to do on a weeknight, and that kind of thing would discourage me from making this recipe on a Wednesday, I'm instead going to cut my chicken breast in half. So the next step is their recommendation after you have lightly pounded the chicken breasts, remove the plastic wrap, and in a shallow dish combine the cornmeal and the 1/2 teaspoon of Cajun seasoning. So I will do that step. And with my hand that hasn't touched the chicken, we'll add that Cajun seasoning. And it is a 1/2 teaspoon. And then we'll add cornmeal. It says 1/4 cup of cornmeal. So that's more than 1/4, probably closer to 1/2, but no harm done. Go ahead and mix that up. And you're going to take 1/4 of a cup of the vegetable mixture and place it inside the chicken. So the chicken is laying flat. Let me move this out of your way so that you can see. The chicken is laying flat, and since I am doing only 2 pieces, I'll go ahead and use half of my mixture. In each one. Like I said, I'm a messy cook for sure. Okay. So then we want to fold the chicken on its edges, to edge. So we're going to, and be careful because the inside is hot and it's all falling out. So this is not as easy a recipe as, this might be why it made more sense to do the cornmeal before you stuff your chicken. So I'm going to sprinkle it with cornmeal. I'm going to lay this one inside as well. I'm going to sprinkle that with cornmeal. So we have put our chicken in the pan. We've coated with the cornmeal, placed them in the pan, and now we are going to bake uncovered for 35 to 40 minutes. And then it says sprinkle with the remaining cheese, so I'm trying to figure out, oh, we were supposed to put cheese inside. So we're supposed to put cheese in the filling, and it's Monterey Jack cheese. So I'm going to put it right there on the edge because I don't want to go ahead and touch the chicken again. So where it's open and the filling is exposed, I'm going ahead and putting there. And then we will top it with cheese after. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven. So we will come back to this closer to the time when the chicken is done, and we will make the next portion of our dish, which is greens and couscous. So we'll be right back. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left on our chicken that's in the oven before we top that with more cheese. And we want to get started on our greens and couscous. So we'll turn on the burner. And the first thing we're going to do is, in a 2-quart saucepan, cook garlic in hot oil over medium heat for 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and put my oil. It calls for 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there and let that heat up. And as I said, we have about 4 minutes left on our chicken. And then we're going to top that with the additional cheese. It calls for a total of a 1/2 cup of Monterey Jack cheese. So once we take that out, we'll top that with the rest of the cheese. Notice how I cut the recipe in half, but the cheese I kept exactly the same. So we'll go ahead and put that back in the oven for 5 minutes once we put that cheese on there. And we'll wait for this to get hot. I should have thought ahead and gotten my burner hot for you. But while I was away, after I cleaned up a little bit, I was reading some other recipes, looking forward to what I'm going to make next in my next video. So tell me the kinds of things that you would like to see me cook. Recipes that you would like. Would you like fish recipes, chicken recipes, beef recipes? Pork is my favorite meat. So tell me what it is that you love, and I can search. Since I decided to do this about 5 weeks ago, I have been going to Goodwill and other thrift stores to find cookbooks. And I have found nearly 100 cookbooks at this point. I have a list in Google Keep in my phone so that when I am out, I don't duplicate, because I didn't do that initially. I had probably about 50 cookbooks at that point, and I duplicated 2 books. But I also have cookbooks with slow cooker recipes, so that's a perfect one for weeknights, and I want to try a bunch of those recipes. But tell me what it is that you would like. Tell me if you'd like to see a vegetarian recipe. I love tofu, and I would love to make a vegetarian recipe sometime as well. And the last video that I made was my first video, actually, and it was chicken with Tuscan chicken with white beans. You could have left out the chicken and made that, and it still would have been a filling meal with the fiber and the protein that comes from the beans and with the tomatoes. Very delicious. It turned out far better than I even imagined that it would. That's what I'm hoping for today's recipe too. But I will be honest with you. My goal is not to show you a recipe and then have you taste it and it not be very good. I will be very honest, goodness gracious, about each of the recipes that I cook. So again, it said 2 cloves of garlic. I realize now that I am making the content that I don't have a very big space to work with. I don't have a very big kitchen. I actually live in a 900 square foot cottage. I call it my retirement home. I purchased the home about 10 years ago. So I've been here about 10 years. I had a big 2-story home, and after my son graduated college and got married, there was no use for the upstairs of the house. My bedroom was downstairs, and so I decided to sell my house and buy this home. It was actually my aunt's home, and decided to buy this and it be my little retirement home. The only downfall, it looks absolutely delicious. So this is not hot. We'll go ahead and top it with the extra cheese. It does not look to me like we are in trouble for not having dipped this in egg whites beforehand. So that's a positive. And go ahead and put it back in for 5 more minutes. And at this point, our garlic is good. And we're going to add 3 cups of coarsely chopped either mustard or collard greens. I have collard greens, and these are pre-washed and ready to eat. So we'll add those into the skillet. And it says to cook for 5 minutes. I did cook my garlic too long. I can smell that now. It's not burnt, but it's strong. So the next time I make that, I will follow the directions and only cook for 30 seconds. But I'll bring my temperature up before I add it. So collard greens are apparently like spinach. They cook down quite a bit. We'll go ahead and do that. I find it's very good to use these box broth because I can put the rest in the refrigerator and nothing goes to waste. We want 1 cup. I have actually never had couscous before, so this will be a new thing for me. I have had collard greens. I loved it. I normally love them with vinegar. I lived in the South for a couple of years, so I actually lived there. My husband at the time was from Alabama, and we were military, we were Army, and we're going to go ahead and now add our broth to the greens and bring that to a boil, which won't take long because this is very hot. But my husband and I were both in the Army band, and so we met at the School of Music in Norfolk, Virginia, at the Naval Amphibious Base. That's where the School of Music is for Army, or at least at the time it was. I don't know if it still is, but that's where the School of Music was for Army, Navy, and Marines. And he was from Alabama, and we lived in Alabama for a while, and I was just learning how to cook. At this point, we're going to add the broth, stir in the couscous, and remove from heat. So we need pull this out of the oven. Let that sit for a minute. We need a 1/2 cup of couscous. Okay, so it says to add this and then remove it from the heat. So add the couscous, stir it in, and remove it from the heat, and then cover it for 5 minutes. But I make a great green beans that you fry your bacon, and then you remove the bacon and you add in onion. And if you like mushrooms, you add mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms, so I don't make it that way. I just do it with onion, and then you can add just plain canned green beans. You can add frozen green beans, and you saute it, but you do it at a higher heat level so that they start to char a little bit, and then you top it with the bacon, crumbled bacon afterwards. So it's really delicious. And I know that that's low carb. It's definitely not something that's healthy, but one of the things that I'm learning as I research foods and that I should be eating as someone with type 2 diabetes is that fat is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, is bacon grease, cooking in bacon grease, the way to go? Absolutely not. That's not considered healthy fat. But occasionally I think that that's not going to hurt, or maybe that's just my own naivety and what I want to believe, because I love that. I love bacon grease and I love bacon. So I'm going to go ahead and plate this up. And I'll show you what they look like. So I don't think it hurt. I don't think it hurt at all for us to not dip them in the egg white. I don't think it hurt for us not to pound them out with a meat tenderizer. I don't think either of those things hurt. I think that saving those time-saving steps were fine. I did not set a timer to know when 5 minutes is up. I don't think it is up. although the liquid is almost all absorbed. I think we're just about at 5 minutes now, so we can go ahead, remove our lid, and add some of our greens and couscous to our plate. Now this recipe, as I mentioned, this book gives you everything that you would need on your plate for a meal. And it does call for steamed carrot sticks. I am not a fan of carrots, so I'm not going to make those. I would make some steamed green beans. That would be something that I think would be good. So the chicken is very tender. As you can see, it was easy for me to go in there and cut that with my fork. I'm going to get a perfect bite, have a little bit of everything. So a little bit of the stuffing, a little bit of the cheese, some greens, and some couscous. And we'll give this a try. It's very good. It's very good. And I do like couscous. So I don't know necessarily what it tastes like to compare it to. It just tastes like a grain. What you taste more is the garlic. That's the thing that is the most powerful in this. But it's great with the greens. The greens are not bitter in any way, so they're perfect, having been sauteed in that olive oil and the garlic. Chicken is very tender. Poblano peppers are not hot, so I'm very lucky and pleased with that. The cheese makes that an excellent topping for the overall dish. And I can taste the cornmeal, but it's not too much. I thought that because there was no salt and pepper that maybe it would be lacking. It does not need it. So I think that all in all, this is an excellent recipe, and I would make this 100% again. So if you like this recipe, if you like this video, please like it and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Because I'm new, that's the only way people are going to find me, is if more people subscribe and more people like my videos. I thank you for staying for the entire video. I know that I'm new to this and there are parts that feel very awkward, but I have confidence that eventually it's going to be like talking with an old friend. So thank you, and until my next video, take care, have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. As I was plating up, I realized that I forgot to tell you some important things that I want to share when I make videos for you. And that is that for the entire meal, the total fat content was 12 grams. The carbohydrates were 35, and I will always try and stay under 45 carbohydrates before you remove the dietary fibers, before you subtract that. So there were 3 grams of dietary fiber, and our protein was 46 grams. So really good on the protein there. Still higher in carbohydrates than you would do on keto, but not at all bad for someone who is trying to eat a healthy lifestyle, live a healthy lifestyle, eating healthy, more healthy, and for type 2 diabetes. I also wanted to let you know the cost of the meal. So I added everything but the seasoning. I already had the Cajun seasoning. I didn't buy the parsley. I had the parsley from my fridge, from my spice cabinet. And the total cost for everything, and I have greens left over, couscous left over, and cornmeal. Obviously have a ton of that left over, but I did buy cornmeal. And all of my onion, celery, etc. I have more for other things. But my total cost for 4 servings was $18.30, which made that $4.58 per serving, which I don't think is bad. And it was a quick meal. The preparation part of the meal was pretty quick. We just have the baking in the oven for 35 minutes and then an additional 5 minutes. The couscous and the greens were very easy to put together and something that I will definitely replicate. So take care.